Okay, hello and welcome to another show and tell. My name is Kevin Nakagawa, and I'm the owner of Stampscapes Stamps, but if you've watched this video channel for any length of time, or if you've been a long-time stamper, you might know that I worked for a Stamp in the Hand company before I started my own company, and I worked for them from about 1987 to about 1991, 92-ish. And I was going to college at the time, and I answered an ad on the job board at Long Beach State University, and it was from a Stamp in the Hand company. They were looking for kind of just production assistants to help make stamps during their kind of busy holiday period of time. And I remember reading the ad, and it said something like a rubber stamp company. I think it might have said an art rubber stamp company or something like that. And it might have had a description of the job, but it said must be creative and neat. And I thought, well, maybe that would be good for me. I assumed it was going to be a rubber stamp company, like a business rubber stamp company, and I thought they'd be doing things like layouts and things like that for personalized rubber stamps. And I went in there, and it was all these different types of images, like little flowers and angels, animals, and things like that. And who ended up being my boss, because I got hired there, she showed me kind of this little demo card, and she stamped out this little kind of business card size, little glossy piece of paper, and she showed me how rubber stamps were used. First time I've ever seen art rubber stamps in use before, and at that point in time, in the kind of the late 80s, rubber stamps were not as big of a hobby as they later turned out to be. So I was, pretty taken by the demonstration there, and I thought it would seem like a cool job, so I was hired on there, and I started making stamps. But these are the types of stamps the Stamp in the Hand had. They had maybe about three or four kind of main artists in their line. One of them did a lot of pen and ink work, a lot of tightly detailed things, including some stippling like I do. A lot of eraser carving style of images, and that was kind of what they were a little bit more known for, the carved looking, hand carved looking images. And there were two main artists that made up the majority of the pieces in the catalog. And I'll just kind of flip through here and you can see some of them. Now, at this point in time, in 1990, I did start designing for them, but for the first year and a half, probably, maybe more, I was just kind of helping out at shows, the conventions, getting the inventory ready, making inventory for orders, and just doing general office types of work, but mostly on production. A lot of different types of animals here. These types of solid imagery were carved images, okay? A lot of the initials, I don't even know who did those. It might have just been a friend of Kathy's. There were a lot of friends of hers that were in the Calligraphy Association, so they were really great artists and had, vast repertoire of techniques and things like that, but they were all really good carvers and artisans and users of just various media. So looking back at these, I remember making all these little stamps right here, and one of the things, it wasn't really my job to do any coloring, but we used to color these types of images with markers, and there was these types of stamps that I've mentioned in other videos, but it wasn't your wood-mounted standard beveled hourglass style of wood mount. That's kind of standard when it comes to the wood-mounted versions of stamps, but the stamps that they used were more this, I don't know, this kind of, I forget the name of that shape here, but it was kind of this beveled, angled piece of wood that had the cushion built into it, but it had this plastic flap that went over the top of this cover. And under that cover was a piece of paper, okay? They bought these in long strips, like 18-inch strips or something like that. There was this piece of paper that ran down it. But we would have these cut out by this one guy to whatever size we wanted. So it would have, it would cut through the plastic, wrapping top, and then that piece of paper would be under there. We'd take out that piece of paper, we'd take off the top, take those tops to the bathroom, wash it all out because they were all covered in sawdust underneath them from the trimming that was being done. Wash off those tops, but we'd take that piece of paper, and be it whatever type of image that we had, we would take these and we would hand color them, usually with some kind of designated color. We wanted to do, be accurate as far as like what a toucan would look like. And we had a master stamp of one of those, so we would take that and we would color it up and stamp it onto that piece of paper. You'd have this original that would go, back on top of that wood block, and then they would put, dry and clean off those plastic tops, and we'd wrap it around that piece of wood. It kind of wrapped around and had, the underside of the plastic had these little, it was contoured to the bottom of that mount. It's kind of hard to explain, but that plastic went on top of there, and so you had this original colored, indexed piece of wood. The problem with that type of thing, though, is if these were on a shelf for any length of time in a store, if dye-based inks, they're just not very light, fast, and they fade. So if something stood on the store shelf for a year, that thing looked really faded. Okay, so what I'm getting at is, we used to hand color all these, which I thought, man, that is taking forever to do, especially if it's some kind of stamp that required a lot of different colors, like this heart one right here. We wouldn't just do it like red. Like each one of these hearts might be colored a different color. You'd stamp it out once, and you'd have to color it up again. So what I did was, what ended up being my big project was they had, I don't know, 600 different images or something like that. And what I did was I took a lined 11 by 17 inch piece of glossy paper. I mounted it on a board. God, I forgot about that part of it. I had to spray mount it, with a spray adhesive. Stick that piece of paper on this board, rule it out for the size of a stamp, as many as I can get on one board, and then we would hand do each one of these things, so we'd get a perfect print. And then what I would do is color laser technology was new at the time. So I would take it into like a Kinko's Copies, that's a copy chain of copy stores that had kind of the latest color laser machines. I think it was a Canon. I forgot the code for it, but I used to know all of that because I'd be going in all the time. But anyways, we can get these master sheets printed out for, I don't know, $3.50 or something like that. But that saved a lot of money from someone hand coloring all those things like that. And then we would get these color lasers back, prints, and then we would just cut them out with an X-Acto blade, put it underneath that top, and then those prints did not fade. So I got a lot of experience just coloring images. So like this balloon here, I might do it in like purple, like this. I'd color the whole thing purple. I'm talking about on the rubber stamp, not a printout. But then I would color a little highlight with a pink or something like that, so it looked like it was multi-toned and kind of three-dimensional. And I might be stamping out, some balloon, 15, 20 times or something like that, and coloring it up each time, and the same thing going for each one of these. But I really spent a lot of time on my coloring of these different types of images. A lot of colors would go into a clown like that, because it was going to be the master panel, and then we can have that printed off, and it would give people a good indication of the possibilities when it came to coloring their stamps and getting those impressions off of them. Okay? All right, so super long story made long. Maybe even longer. All right, Merry Christmas. That was always a real popular one, and that's not kind of line copyright free art. I'm sure that was someone in their calligraphy kind of group that did that type of thing. But some really cool eraser carving types of things. And if you haven't done eraser carving before, you ought to try it. It's Statler Mars erasers, nice and smooth and thick and kind of dense. And then you use linoleum block cutters to carve out an image. Usually draw it on first and then carve around, retaining the lines. And then you can just color them up with, these or stamp pads or whatever, and you can make your own prints. It's really a great project. So a lot of Christmas things, of course. Holidays were a big type of theme over there, and seller around the holiday boutiques that we used to do and go out on. We would do all kinds of different, just general craft and gift fairs, street fairs, everything like that. We would be going out and doing this type of circuit every year. So we would be the only rubber stamp company in these places usually, and someone would be doing the demonstrations, and I'd usually be helping people out with their, selections and whatnot, and we sold pens and sometimes little heart punches. There weren't a lot of accessories back in the day, and usually packs of paper or something like that. So usually my boss, Kat, or someone else would be doing a demonstration and showing people how things can be done. And it was really amazing because people got really excited about it, and they'd be buying like this, gigantic bag of things. Kathy can make a real, tiny little business card demo very exciting, and it's a new type of thing that people hadn't seen at the time, because rubber stamping, like I said, it just wasn't a well-known type of hobby at the time. Okay, now this is a catalog, I believe, that came out earlier in like 1988, but we had this one printed up in 1990, and then she had these interior supplements here, okay? We'd be sending out these supplements separately, but when she had the catalog reprinted, she put the supplements bound inside. You can see some of my designs starting to come in the supplements now. So this little frame right here was one of my designs, and I'll just kind of point them out as I go along. These ornaments right here. I wasn't doing landscape types of imagery at the time. That came along a little bit later, I believe in 91. Some of them might be in here, the precursors for the kind of more extensive types of building blocks for, kind of larger scenes and whatnot. But a lot of Christmas things, it was the way Kat would put out the word is, okay, we're gonna release some new stamps coming up, and we want it to be an Easter theme or a Christmas thing or whatever, Halloween. You got 2 weeks to do it, draw some designs up and submit them for I don't know, for voting or whatever, it was her choice. And usually, I don't know, Rick or whatever was the office manager at the time. But there's one of my eggs right up here. Some spooky types of pumpkins right here. Those are my designs. I started doing a lot of streamers like this. A lot of people were stamping on envelopes and whatnot, or they just wanted to make a border for around a page. People were still writing back in these days, and sending things. A lot of mail still going on, so things like this made, a border around a piece of paper or whatnot. This was my Christmas light image right here. This one is my ornaments, and I was kind of copying an image done by Linda here. I'll flip to it. But this was like streamers and bulbs, and this is what I used to do. I haven't done this for a while, but I was in a store in Old Town, Pasadena way back in the day, and a store had all these ornaments hanging kind of on like fishing line or something like that, interspersed with these streamers, and I thought, oh, that makes a really cool graphic, so I did it in a stamp design, but we sold 1 million of these, and one of the demo guys at the conventions that we used to, he hated doing this one because he'd have to, color these bulbs like in different colors and, maybe the streamers in another color. But this one also looked really good, just embossed in like a silver gold embossing on a dark piece of paper. Other little Christmas ones, presents, single lights right here. I did all these little ornaments down here. these are mine right here. Some more streamers, sports-related types of things. I don't know if I was told to do that. Rockets here, kind of 4th of July type of thing. That's one of my designs. So I was always a pen and ink artist. You know, I was able to do, or I practiced a lot of kind of comic booky styles of drawings when I was in high school. So I was really adept with the, you know, technical pen, you know, for getting really clean line drawings at the time. But here's some heart streamers and kind of like little foil hearts like that. I always like doing these little designs in them. I used to read this comic book called Iron Man. You know, yes, the Robert Downey kind of version of it in live action, but I used to really like Iron Man, and there was this one artist named Bob Layton who used to do these real cool kind of types of effects in the armor, you know, to make something look metal. And, you know, I kind of got those kind of stylization kind of ideas from looking at that art. Here's that streamer one from Linda. No, I don't know who that one is. It's KS. Yeah, I don't know who that is. A lot more garden-y types of things. Here's a real modular system right here. You can't really make a full garden out of it, but thematically, you know, kind of in the collage-y type of situation. Okay, now this was another... Okay, now these are... You can see some more of my kind of nature elements. Look at this splashing frog. That would be kind of cool in the Stampscapes line. We can have that kind of splashing in a pool. I used to... That was called Splashing Frog, but I always thought it would be a cool name for that one. Should have been Frog Legs. All right, now this is another theme that I was working on there, and that was kind of the Greco-Roman series. And these images right here, these columns, were the first images that I did for a Stamp in the Hand. And then just to kind of expand on it, I came up with these other figures and everything to go along with that. My old boss was, she was making a card for someone, a pop-up card, and I just did this. She goes, hey, you know, can anyone draw me like a little column, or Kevin, can you draw a column? She knew that, you know, I was an art student, and I just came up with this really small one, and she kind of Xeroxed it off, so there was like these columns to each side of some kind of figure. And she goes, you know, that's pretty good. Maybe we should have it made into a design. And I said, no, don't do that. You know, give me the weekend and I'll come up with, you know, some better ones. And I came up with these real ornate ones. The original size of these ones are probably twice as large, you know, tall. But there were 3 of them at the time, and she chose 2. I think these are all in my Greco-Roman series now. I don't think I have 2 different floors. And I'm not sure if I have the figures or not. I need to go and check. I haven't used the Greco-Roman series in a long time. And I also expanded on these images right here, and I came up with a much more extensive grouping of stamps. It became rather large because they're like buildings, you know, that you can stamp and put other things on the inside of it. You can kind of, I don't know, it could even be a word stamp, happy birthday or something like that, and it creates this kind of grand type of setting for whatever you stamp, you know, underneath something so ornate as like a marble pediment or entablature, you know, and floors and such, you know, so on and so forth. Little foily streamer types of things, like little party things. I did these little things like this that could be dingbats. You know, you stamp it on some kind of word, you know, or there's a word and you stamp, you know, these elements to each side of it. Kind of party things, birthday parties. Okay, this is going back into the, oh, here's a TV set that I did back then. So the idea was that you can stamp anything you want on the inside, stamp that out, or you can cut it out or whatever, and then you can put whatever you want on the inside, like it's showing on TV. Other types of imagery, the floral things were really big at a Stamp the Hand, and this is where I learned a lot of names of some different types of flowers and kind of roughly what they might have looked like. Crocus, we made so many of these ones. All kinds of little wildflowers here. These ones sold pretty well. I think the lupin was really popular. But I remember having to learn what the colors of these types of flowers were too. And I think occasionally we would color it kind of a color that wasn't realistic in terms of what the actual thing would be. But usually our office manager would know or something like that. He'd say, "Hey guys, that's not what bluebells look like, or they're not that color," so we'd have to recolor things. Anyway. Birthday cake, that one was a big seller. Some of these didn't sell too much. The sushi was really popular. A tossed salad set, that was always fun to do. But it was 5 pieces that 5 different little stamps that we had to color individually. And then we had to shrink wrap it in this little piece of cardboard that we would cut out, so... That's what you do for, kind of a rubber stamping and handmade styles of, rubber stamps. These aren't coming out of some machine somewhere mass-produced, so we had to make everything, and the shrink wrapping entailed taking like this little seal-a-meal type of plastic thing, making a little bag for it, I think sealing it off, then heat setting it with like a heat gun or something like that would shrink, and make that really tight. By the time you made those types of things in sets like that, you just did not want to sell those because it just took so long to make, and just a lot of care went into those types of things. Same thing with something like this, Days of the Week set. Just so much production went into a 7 separate stamp set, and then making the thing that was to hold that set together. So. Oh, fun memories. It's kind of bringing back some kind of production types of issues and memories of doing that. Kind of crazy. Happy birthday. That was a real popular one right there. Hearts. Hearts were always popular. Or there's a photo of that stamp right there. That style of mount right there. But see, this plastic covering went over the top of it. It says stamped image in living color, protected by clear acetate. Yeah, so this little clear acetate went over it. But we didn't use double stick cushion. This had the cushion on there, so the entire back of the production room smelled like rubber cement, because one person would typically be wiping that rubber cement on everything. So, yeah, real smelly. I didn't mind that type of thing, though. I don't know, I'm one of those people that kind of like that type of smell, like being in a photo darkroom with fixers and developers and all that type of thing. Land, sea, and sky, a lot of these types of images right here, star web light, star web dark, that was really popular with this. I mean, they sold, and people, Kathy would use this cloud all the time right here. But I remember these, going back to that star one, those were really popular at the store in, I believe it was Anchorage, Alaska. I want to say Far North Images or something like that. I don't know if that was the name of that store or something like that, or if I'm mixing it up with a manufacturer from there. I'm not sure. But that little cloudy there, that might have been one of the most popular things there, because she would write someone's name in calligraphy, then she would kind of stamp around it with these little clouds, and then she would do heart punches, and and that little star there too might have been on the back of a pencil or something like that, pencil eraser stamp. Stamp those in little colors like that. Yeah, it was a nice little cool little card, and she'd write their name in kind of calligraphy. But yeah, that little cloud there was something. All right, so more images like this. Okay, so a lot of people that were into stamps in these kind of earlier stamping days, they were into mail art, and they were into dressing up their envelopes. So you get these faux postage, I think they were called, like stamps and things like that. It seemed like seals and things like that. Stamp USA City, Tulip Post, Poppy Post, Hair Mail. And you would dress up your envelopes with that. So a lot of people were, like I said, still mailing things around. And they might dress up, you might dress up a bill, on your envelope or something like that. But everyone that did this type of thing and really had kind of cool envelopes, they would always say that they're mail carriers, or the person at the postal clerks at the post office would always love seeing them and seeing the letters and the artwork that people would create on their envelopes, and it was really cool. I don't know. There's probably some kind of website out there dedicated to mail art, but here's some more right here. Postmarks right here. Seasons, bleedings, rabid, transit. That Greyhound there. Junk mail. U.S. scare mail for Halloween. Via sleigh mail. These are all eraser carved images here too. So quite intricate. I'm not sure what the original sizes would be, but probably larger, so that you can shrink it down to this, and that letter form would be really clear. But it's Sunan Douglas did all these. She did a lot of those alphabets. June Munger. I don't remember selling too many of these alphabet sets right here, but that is crazy because if one of these letters came back damaged when you were doing vulcanizing, that set was through. You had to, one kind of bubble in one of these things like that would negate the entire set because you had to make up another whole sheet of these. But I'm pretty sure I did one of these and colored these up. But kind of making those sets was nuts. But this is what you had to kind of do back in the day. We weren't doing like, computer typography at this point in time. Maybe a little bit, but, it was kind of more of a specialized thing. Alright, so accessories, Marvy brush markers, Laplumes, Prismacolors. I don't remember using Prismacolors too much, but certainly people did. 4-color stamp pad, rainbow pads. The rainbow pads were by Abracadabra, which I thought was Stamp Francisco or something related to that. I'm not sure. And there were solid stamp pads. Okay, so I guess there were... I don't think these were raised die-based pads, though. I think they were recessed. I'm not sure about the rainbow pads, though. The rainbow pads might have been... I don't know. I don't remember raised die-based pads this early in the game, so they might have been recessed. They had to be recessed, otherwise, because the inks were too thick and the foam materials weren't as dense. So if you put them on their side, all those inks would run together. So later on, when they started doing the raised die-based pads, the ink pad fabric was denser to hold that ink in, so it wouldn't, just pour out if you had them on their side. And the company started making their inks thicker, to stay within that dense foam or fabric pads. So anyways, okay, so here's some more supplements right here. Oh, here's the Space series that I did right here. Okay. And I have those in the Stampscapes line now on their own separate sheet. Holiday types of, well, these aren't really holidays. Kind of New Year's, Chinese New Year type things with the cracker, firecrackers and dragon kites right here. Kind of a festive type of thing. And I have some of these. I don't have all of these on my dragon kite set, but that was another series, so I think you get the point here as far as the different types of images that I was doing at the time. These are all my kind of little birthday festive types of things that people can stamp out for like birthday invitations and whatnot. Little teddy bears and things like that. People want kind of associate me with a birthday parade like that. But those are things that I did over there at that time. Okay, it doesn't look like I have, the first Nature series wasn't out at this time yet, so I guess that, it probably came later on in 1990, and then one of those stamps started really selling a lot, so I came up with another full system, and it was all like Country Stream, Country Chapel, not Country Chapel, but Country Road, Country Trees and things like that, I think it was called. And someone just reminded me of that naming convention fairly recently. But Stamp the Hand Company, going back in time to 1990. while I was going to college, and I graduated in '91, and continued working for them for another year and a half or so. And maybe a year, I was doing freelance illustration, and just kind of thought, I'd like to kind of give this a crack and see where I can take the modular landscaping style of imagery, because I love the outdoors and I really like doing kind of my own thing and drawing the types of images that I really like to draw. Freelancing was fun to an extent, but you were pretty much drawing, whatever anyone wanted you to draw, and sometimes it was kind of a little bit boring. We want you to, draw this world, globe and do it exactly like this one, or something like that, and we need it in 2 hours, so I don't know, kind of a challenge and interesting, but for me, I wanted to really kind of explore further the things that I had started at A Stamp in the Hand, but needed to go independent to kind of fully realize the potential of that type of system and imagery. Okay, so anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you remember A Stamp in the Hand company back in the 80s, and if you went to any of those kind of yearly or bi-yearly sales, they always had this warehouse sale. I don't know, write it down in the comments section if you were, going to those sales. You might have went to the ones that were a little bit larger over in the business district over in Carson, kind of across the street from where that used to be. But if you used to go to those kind of warehouse sales, or if you, shopped at A Stamp in the Hand, or if you have any of these images, let me know in the comments section.